What are some popular tourist attractions that you do not recommend?
Plymouth Rock. It's a rock.
To be fair, many of the attractions in the US are just rocks.
It's a small rock. And you can't even touch it.
I grew up in the area, and I guess I never realized people from out of state think Plymouth Rock is something worth seeing. It is so not worth seeing.
I see a lot of Mount Rushmore comments on here. It's worth seeing, but not worth fighting a crowd, or paying for overpriced parking. Life pro tip: get there right at sunrise. You can drive right in without paying to park, there will be zero crowds, and the figures are much more striking in the early morning light. I did this on July 4th a couple years ago. Only other people, there was a local news crew. I hiked the trail, and hit every viewpoint, and was out of there before 8 a.m.
Mount Rushmore is crazy though. You gotta think, how did natural erosion cause those faces to appear? What's more fascinating, is that the faces each resemble a US president. That alone is pretty insane, in my opinion.
They say that Jesus himself left his mark there, when he was nailed to the cross in 1776.
He died for our freedom.
The Grand Canyon Skywalk. It's the glass bridge that the Hualapai built on a side canyon, to attract tourists to the western rim. It's a royal ripoff. The base price just to get on the reservation is around $50 per person, which doesn't include the skywalk. It's close to $90 per person to include the skywalk. If you do feel the need to visit the Grand Canyon, stick to the national park. The North Rim is not as touristy as the South, $30 per vehicle.
I wish people would read TripAdvisor before visiting that stupid thing. If you're in Las Vegas and want to see the Grand Canyon, rent a car and drive the extra couple of hours to the actual Grand Canyon National Park, not the rip-off skywalk. Original poster didn't mention that you're not allowed to take photos on the skywalk. Management has decided that it's too dangerous, and your camera might fall into the canyon. They confiscate your cameras and phones. However, their own photographer whose camera magically cannot fall into the canyon will happily take your photo for $35. The Hualapai tribe who run it are a bunch of damn crooks. The Taiwanese entrepreneur who built the skywalk for them did so, with the intention of the tribe paying for half of it, and collecting half the revenue. They never paid the guy, refused to acknowledge a lawsuit he filed unless he filed it in tribal court, and the poor son of a died a couple years ago without ever getting a penny. Hollywood Boulevard is the definitive answer here.
Come for the stars, stay because you slipped on piss, and broke your back.
I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard as unamused as everyone walking down it, then a lady rolls down her window, and gets my attention. She yells at me, and is like,
"Hey, excuse me. Do you know where the Walk of Fame is?"
I just point down, and am like, "We're on it right now." She just looks down, and looks stunned like,
"That's it?"
That's what I imagine goes through most people's mind.
Sounds about right. I mean, it's kinda cool if you're going to see a show at one of the theaters, and you have a few minutes to kill, but making it a destination in and of itself is a terrible idea.
Yep, went to see Jimmy Kimmel, and did the Walk of Fame as a fun time sink beforehand. I wasn't expecting anything past what it was not disappointed. Guy in a Deadpool shirt trying to sell us a tour though, could right off. Four Corners, unless you like turquoise, silver jewelry, and flea markets.
I like those things.
Same, and I love tourist attractions just like this. Four Corners is right up my alley, and is legit on my bucket list.
From Dallas, many people don't realize that the marker for the JFK assassination spot is in the middle of a road that is still active. Don't try to touch it. The cars won't stop. Also, the grassy knoll is usually covered in litter, and maybe a homeless person, or two. The 8th floor museum isn't bad, pricey, but generally interesting. If you're in that area, I'd pick the Perot Museum, or the aquarium any day over that.
I'm a New Yorker. Avoid Statue of Liberty, take Staten Island Ferry instead, paying to go up World Trade Center. Overpriced in my opinion. Taxis/Ubers, take subway instead. If you go to Times Square, don't shop there. Do not buy tickets from people in the street. For certain interests, theater buffs, Broadway show, the Apollo. Artsy people, Museum of Modern Art / Guggenheim / other art museums. History buffs, Ellis Island, various museums. Shopaholics, Fifth Avenue. Hipsters, Brooklyn.
I was really underwhelmed by Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. It was just a bunch of overpriced junk shops, and a couple crappy chain restaurants. Not really seedy, but a city like San Fran has so much more to offer than that.
I got to see a seal fight there. So that was pretty cool.
I live in Idaho where Sun Valley is an incredibly popular spot. That's fine by me, but people have this notion that it gives an idea of what Idaho is like. Going to Sun Valley to get a taste of Idaho is the equivalent of renting an RV to get a taste of camping. It's still a good time, and worth the experience, but it isn't the same. My coworkers and I joke that it's a piece of California that got lost. Like I said, fun place, and absolutely gorgeous, but it is almost solely for tourists. If you want to experience Idaho, ask the locals.
South of the border. Why is this place so popular among old people? I went there, and it was awful, trashy, dirty, and the food got my family sick. It's slightly worse than jury duty. 2 out of 10.
Empire State Building. Doesn't make sense to line up for 3 hours so you can see a view that you could get from many of the hotel rooftops in Midtown anyway.
I always send people to Top of the Rock instead. View of Empire State Building and Central Park, no obstructions, and usually no lines.
The Space Needle. Expensive elevator ride. If you want a good view, literally just walk up a hill.
It's not too bad if you get the city pass, which lets you go up twice in 24 hours, for example, once in the day, once at night. Then you also get the harbor cruise, science museum, zoo, and 1 or 2 other things for around $80 per person. Liberty Bell. It is just a small, broken bell. Nothing interesting to see.
You gotta lick it.
It tastes like an old penny.
The Las Vegas Strip. Honestly, it has lost all of uniqueness. It just became a place where it's so expensive and outrageous. They have torn down a lot of the old hotels besides the Flamingo and Tropicana. It's only nice at night with all the lights. My suggestion: go downtown, maybe take the bus to the Strip if there is some shows and stuff you want to see, and visit a lot of the historical sites of Vegas. Like the Mob Museum, Children's Discovery Museum, and Red Rock, or the Wetlands Park. Then grab a flight at night where you can see the Strip lights. Bourbon Street. Smells like puke, piss, and stale beer.
The French Quarter, in general, though, is fantastic. So many good restaurants. Plus a few of the funky little museums, like the Pharmacy Museum, and the Museum of Death. And a lot of boutique shops, though all the art was way out of my price range unfortunately.
Royal Street is fantastic.
The Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii. The place was beyond weird. It's really a Mormon front. They offer free tours of the temple after you make it through the park. I felt so bad for the people working there because they are being exploited. The Polynesian Cultural Center really is just a front for the religion to destroy native culture and history.
Not to mention, you can't get a beer there.
That is the worst part. I live close to Branson, Missouri, and I can assure you that nearly everything in that town is like some odd Christian-type tourist trap, and draws in overweight Midwesterners, who want a closer connection to fun Jesus and meth. Silver Dollar City is like an overblown Six Flags based off of Pioneer era. because nothing screams the old Civil War era like a looping dollar coaster called Wildfire, and overpriced funnel cake. There is Yakov Smirnoff, who has been there forever. There is the Titanic Museum, where people can pay an overpriced ticket to take a look at third-rate items from the Titanic. If you are looking for summer fun, you can go to Whitewater, where the rusted rides will kill you if you don't first get tetanus. On the Strip you have generic restaurants that border on absurd Americana, and a Cracker Barrel. To top it off, you can go to the Sight and Sound Theater, where you can go see musicals based off of Old Testament stories, and playing right now is Samson the Musical, after the long-running Moses musical had finished. I went with a religious family member one time to actually see the Noah musical. One of the reasons I went was because the ticket was free, but the other was I was super poor, and they promised to feed me. For the most part it was a corny play retelling the story of Noah. But when the flood starts happening, it suddenly starts getting dark. The lights dim low, and you can hear the rain come down hard. Noah rushes his family into the ark. The sounds of anguish and horrible screams echo from the inside of the ark as people are begging to be let in, desperate to get free of death. On the outside you can hear Noah's brother pound of the closed door as the family is huddled up to wait for everyone to drown to death. He exclaims, "I'm sorry, Noah. I'm sorry. You were right, you were blurrable rub blur blurb." He lets out this comical crowing exclamation. The lights dim as the sounds of the dying masses began to fade. The lights shoot up, and all of a sudden Noah and the family are happy, and singing, and jubilant. I'm like, holy shit, did this play just try to Bambi me? It must have, because the 5-year-old sitting next to me is shaking, and crying, and saying,
"Is God going to kill us, Mommy?"
Oh, and there's zip lining if you are into that too.
I came here to talk shit on Branson, but I think you've put it perfectly. It is the single worst place on the planet.
To paraphrase The Simpsons, it's like Disneyland run by Ned Flanders.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and ring the notification bell.